On this channel, I talk a lot about spending intentionally and making sure that we know that we actually want something before we go out and spend the time and money to buy it. Today, I'll be talking about some purchases that have really elevated my life. Some of them are small purchases I make regularly to make my life a little bit more enjoyable, and others at first glance may seem a little bit more expensive, but given how much I use them, I think that they're fully worth it because the cost per use averages out to be quite low. Hi everyone, my name is Carly. On this channel, we talk all things personal finance, modeling, and lifestyle. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please do subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos. Starting out with the first point, ever since I started living in an apartment, so basically since college, I have cooked the majority of my meals at home. Before, it was literally just to make food to sustain myself. But more recently, as I've started building roots and not moving as much on a yearly basis, I have also expanded my curiosity for different recipes. I've started investing in different sauces and spices so that I can try out different recipes and eat food that just makes me happy. And because I'm trying different recipes, sometimes my grocery bill will be a little bit higher than it was before. I also consider trying different recipes and activity, and it is still cheaper than going to a restaurant for the most part. And I still do have a rough grocery budget. Sometimes I definitely go through periods where I've spent more during a particular week or a month, so I will try to offset it with cheaper recipes during other weeks. I have gone through different periods of my life where I have had a credit card with an annual fee, and I've also scaled back and only used credit cards with no annual fees. I recently signed up for a card with an annual fee again because in anticipation for some trips I plan to take this year, I want to use my credit card points to pay for those flights. Again, credit card fees are a recurring expense, which if you know me, you know I am very wary of recurring expenses. So for me, I do the research to make sure that a credit card with an annual fee is one that would actually benefit me. I personally use the Capital One Venture X credit card. It's a travel credit card where basically I earn 2 points on every purchase. And in preparation for this, I had done extensive research into the potential credit cards that would actually benefit me. I also analyzed my money spending habits to understand which categories I generally spend money on and how I would actually gain points. And for me, my highest areas of spending are generally groceries and restaurants. So on top of the Venture X credit card, I also have another credit card with no annual fees. I think it's called the Capital One Saver One card. There's a bunch of different versions of that card, but basically the one I have gives 3% back on grocery purchases and restaurant purchases. And between the two cards, I personally feel like I get a pretty good deal with the credit card points that I'm able to accumulate. And to give you a point of reference, when I was looking at the different credit cards, common rewards percentages looked like maybe 3% back on restaurants, 3% back on travel, maybe 5% back on Uber or Lyft rides, and 1% rewards on everything else. It's kind of an amalgamation of different things, depending on the card. So compared to other cards with annual fees, some people might consider the Venture X pretty bones. But I wouldn't necessarily have spent my money on the extra perks the other cards gave anyway. So I personally don't consider those perks to be worth any money for me. I recently have started outsourcing some work. I have a mindset where I put my hourly worth at a certain amount of dollars, and if I were to sell my time, I would sell it for that amount of dollars. If I'm able to outsource my work for cheaper than this amount of value, then I will consider starting to do it. One way I have practiced this is by outsourcing my editing. I personally spend around maybe 4 to 5 hours editing a video, depending on how long the video is. And I started outsourcing my editing, and my editor can get the video done probably not only faster than I can, but also they can edit it better than I have the ability to. Now I simply have to put some notes on how I want the video to be edited. I'll send the file over and I'll review it when it's done. And I've bought back maybe around like 4 to 5 hours per video. Given that I'm outputting around 2 videos a week, I now roughly have 8 hours back per week that I can now reinvest into scripting or maybe expanding into short form, updating my website, or just like relaxing. And there are certainly other ways in which I can buy back my time, like hiring someone to do my laundry or buying a meal service. But right now I am trying to weigh that against my income and exactly how much I would actually use this additional time. Maybe at some point it would make sense, but hiring a video editor is my first step right now. I budget money to be able to spend guilt-free in terms of coffee purchases. Whenever I am outside, I feel like I have a better experience when I buy myself a latte and I can sip it as I walk around. It just really elevates my experience, and to me, the cost is well worth it. Granted, if I did it every day, it wouldn't be as special of an experience, so I save it mostly for the weekend when I can make an experience out of it. And this is especially as I'm exploring a new neighborhood. I love seeing what types of coffee shops they have in the area. And then not only am I supporting local businesses, it becomes a treat that signals to my mind, like, okay, today's gonna be a good day. I have a Dyson vacuum. It's quite pricey. And could I have gotten a $75 vacuum from online? Yes. But cleaning is not one of my most beloved hobbies, so I wanted to give myself a good experience whenever I do that chore. I also knew that because it's a more expensive item, I would be motivated to use it more frequently so that I would lower its cost per use, which then meant I would have a cleaner apartment. And in this point, I would say skincare and makeup falls under this category too. I love the ritual of getting ready or getting unready, even though I do the same thing all the time. Although I would also argue that skincare and makeup is somewhat a necessity for women because studies show that there are more opportunities given to women when we are better groomed. I don't know what my future will look like, but for now, I am very lucky to be able to have a body where I pretty much have the ability to do anything I want without any limitations. I also currently am a single person with no mortgage or any familial responsibilities, and I want to take advantage of that, and so I try to plan at least one bigger trip per year where I do things that are easier to do as a single person. This year I'm planning a 3-week trip abroad in some backcountry, and it's definitely an experience I will be investing in. There are still so many cities and countries I want to explore, and I feel like it's not easy for me to prioritize this if I didn't actively think about it. And given that right now I have the ability to prioritize travel and experiences, I personally feel like I really should. So I'm willing to spend a little bit extra on trips and experiences that might be harder for me to take later on. And beyond just the plane tickets or the cost of accommodations, sometimes this budget allotment is for paying extra for safety or a budget for getting scammed, because sometimes we just don't know what the norms are. Growing up, I never really made use of a dry cleaner or a tailor or a cobbler. As I started investing in more quality wardrobe pieces, I wanted them to last as long as possible. And part of that is making sure that I am taking care of these items to the best of my ability. Otherwise, the investment simply isn't worth it. I often get my shoes resoled, and if an item of clothing starts to get holes in it, then I will consider going to a tailor to repair it. I'll also dry clean my winter coats generally at least once per season, and sometimes the services can be quite expensive. For example, I've gotten a few shoes resoled, and going to a quality cobbler sometimes costs like 75% of what I bought the shoes for. But to me, the cost is worth it because I get to wear the shoes for another lifespan, and I just consider it a 25% off deal. At some point though, I would love to learn how to use a sewing machine so I can do the hemming and clothing adjustments myself. And I also think that this works for me right now because I have a relatively small wardrobe, I guess depending on who you ask. But even though I would love to have a variety of clothes, I'm also at a point in my life where I find myself moving every 1 to 2 years. Even now, I see myself doing a bigger move in maybe 2 years. So in practicality, it's really expensive to move all of this extra stuff, especially if it's to and from a different state or country. So any money I would spend expanding my wardrobe, I guess I instead spend on a dry cleaner, tailor, or cobbler to expand the lifespan of these items. There's a lot of content out there on saving money. There's also a lot of content on consumption and spending, arguably much more so. But hopefully what I listed today gives you an idea on what items you would truly enjoy spending money on and would actually elevate your life. For me, it's shelling out the extra money for groceries, investing in a credit card with an annual fee for the return on the points. It's also buying back my time. I also enjoy coffee outside occasionally. I buy items that make my life easier, like my vacuum. And I also invest in trips and experiences that might not be as easy for me to take later on. And personally, I also think it's worth it to extend the life of my clothes by using a tailor, cobbler, and dry cleaner. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel a ton. And if you like this video, you would also like this video here on how overconsumption is hurting more than just your wallet.